The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. Now at episode 172, 172 episodes in the book. Well, almost in the books. I am Ray Russell, and this week we're going to be diving into the very first edition of Saturday Night's Main Event here for the WWF in 1989, going back to January 7th in just a little bit of time. I want to welcome everybody back to the show. Thank you all for your support, not just of the Grenade Show, but of WrestleCopia and the whole podcast network world, because while we were away over the last couple of weeks, we celebrated our 5th anniversary. Woo! Go WrestleCopia. The Wrestling Memory Grenade started 5 years ago around this time with the 1989 NWA project, and now we're diving into 1989 and the World Wrestling Federation. So the more things change, the more they stay the same, it would seem. Little full circle action there. But another couple things have been going on, including, well, with the celebration of another year of the WrestleCopia podcast network means all of the annual bills are beginning to pile up on me for the software, the hosting, and everything that goes in between. So I really encourage everybody right now, if you're interested in any way, shape, or form of any of the great stuff we offer over there, to dive over into patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Check out the $5 all access tier for a few bucks more. It's the VIP Superfan tier. And for those of you really interested in more content, it's the ultimate tier. All of that over there at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. When I tell you, you guys keep this thing alive and going, your support literally helps us pay the bills to keep WrestleCopia up and running. So keep that in mind if anybody has a few bucks to spend and looking for great content in return. We're not asking you for handouts, although if you have a few bucks laying around, you want to send it our way, you may do so. WrestleCopia@gmail.com is our PayPal address. Again, greatly appreciated. We can use it now more than ever because all of my extra money tied up into the back-to-school shopping for my 8 kids. So I don't have a whole lot extra to spend here on the network at the moment. So again, your help goes a long way. It's greatly appreciated. But with that out of the way, also, since last we spoke, or at least shortly after we recorded the last episode, we lost a large figure, maybe the largest of all time, certainly the largest of this era here in 1989. And the entire era we've been covering, 87, 88, I'm talking about Hulk Hogan. There's been a lot of tributes put out there, and I'm a little later than most, but, I definitely want to say my piece here at the beginning of this program before we continue on. It feels silly trying to cover the Hulkamania era and not discuss the passing of one Hulk Hogan. So I wanted to share, my thoughts on the Hulkster himself. Now, his impact on pro wrestling is undeniable. And even though I've always had fun telling stories about not being a Hulkamaniac as a kid, and thank you to my brother, by the way, who confirmed that right here on the show, but the truth is that Hulk Hogan was larger than life. He helped bring wrestling to heights it had never seen before on a national level, an international level, if you will. His charisma, his presence, his ability to connect with the fans made him the centerpiece of a boom period that turned the business into a worldwide happening, to quote the Gorilla. So without that lightning in a bottle moment, a long moment of Hulkamania there throughout the 1980s into the 1990s, running wild, brother, coupled with that WWF machine backing him, a lot of the things we take for granted in wrestling today simply wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Hulkamania. Now, for all the stories, the controversies, and the personal opinions that have come with talking about the Hulkster in recent years, the contributions he made to the industry are etched in stone forever. He was the bridge between wrestling being a regional attraction and becoming a pop culture phenomenon. Fans believed in him. They lived through him. And for an entire generation, he represented what it meant to be larger than life, a household name, if you will. Now, whether you loved him or weren't on that Hulkamania bandwagon, Hulk Hogan changed the game, period. and that deserves to be acknowledged and his legacy in pro wrestling respected. So for someone who had the privilege of living the entire WWF Hulkamania run and the NWO, thank you for your contributions. And RIP, brother. All right, with that said, we've got a lot to jump into this week. Of course, I'm talking about Saturday night's main event here for January 1989. Now, if you guys are interested in the video watch-along form of this SNME show, you guys can actually jump over to the Patreon, join the Ultimate tier as part of the Big Ones collections area there. The Big Ones video cast of Saturday night's main event. Gene Jackson jumps in, joins me for a fun ride back in time. Now, that's a little more, just a little tongue-in-cheek, having a great time, talking about the memories, talking about the history, discussing what we're seeing on the screen, just a whole lot of this and that. Now, this week, obviously, as you know, what we do here on The Grenade is kind of run through the entire events, discuss everything, break everything down, and over on the video cast, we have just a fun time, discussing the wrestling history that's in front of us, and that just happened to be SNME. So there's two versions of this show you guys can check out. You can check out, obviously, this version here you're listening to, but also there's a video cast watch-along version I did with Gene Jackson. I greatly and strongly recommend you guys checking that out. We covered that, and we also did Pile Driver, the music videos, the Coliseum video release that recently came out as part of the Coliseum video cast over at the Patreon. So go check those out. But right now, guys, it's time to head back in time here on The Grenade Show, heading back for yet another edition of Saturday Night's Main Event.
Victory! Victory brought me the belt, and only victory will keep it. For the Ultimate Warrior, ultimate victory, and for the Honky Tonk Man, ultimate defeat!
The Honky Tonk Man here, the greatest intercontinental champion of all time, telling the Ultimate Warrior that he has met the Ultimate Challenger.
The Honky Tonk Man can sing better, dance better, play the guitar better, and wrestle better than any lunatic with makeup on.
So tonight I get my belt back, because that's what all of you at home want. You're a beautiful audience. Thank you for your support.
That belt would have been mine if that bushwhacker outlaw Rod Bass hadn't cost me my title shot. So I've challenged Bass to a match in which the loser gets his hair cut by the winner. Bring your spurs and whip, outlaw. I'll bring my clippers. When the strutting and the cutting stops, your head will shine, or I'm not the barber.
The Slickster here reminding you as we enter the new year that there are more important things than titles and belts. Things like brotherhood and fair play. And that's why me and Brother Akeem here are here tonight to rid wrestling of its evil influence, Hulk Hogan. And we pledge tonight never to rest. Not me, not Akeem, and not the big boss man until Hulk Hogan is gone from the World Wrestling Federation. On my honor.
Honor? The Slickster doesn't know nothing about honor, man. He just knows about lying and cheating. He and the big boss man, they tried to put me away, but couldn't do it. So now he brings Akeem. Akeem, I don't know where you come from, but I do know where you're going. And the 24-inch pythons, they'll sure point the way.
All right, we are rocking here. The WWF Saturday Night's Main Event aired January 7th, 1989, tape back December 7th, 1988, a full month prior, from the Sundome in Tampa, Florida, kicking things off the right way. The very first edition of SNME here in 89 on NBC. And Happy New Year, everyone. Happy 1989, as the Ultimate Warrior predicts ultimate defeat here tonight for the Honky Tonk Man. Meanwhile, on the other side, the former champ, Honky, says he sings, dances, and wrestles better than any idiot with makeup on. Tonight, the belt comes home to the Honky Tonk Man. From there, we heard from the barber, Brutus Beefcake, who tells the Outlaw, hey, bring your spurs and whips, because Brudi gonna bring the clippers. Ron Bass, his head will shine tonight, or his name is not the barber. Akeem, the African Dream, stepping in the ring with the Hulkster, gonna rid wrestling of the evil influence of Hulk Hogan. They won't rest until Hulk is gone from the WWF. On Slick's honor, brother, yeah. And then, last but certainly not least, we hear from the Hulkster himself, Hulk Hogan. He gets the last say as the Slickster doesn't know anything about honor. Man. The big boss man couldn't get it done, so now here comes Akeem. Well, Hulk doesn't know where you come from, Akeem, but he's going to send you back packing. Well, I do believe that's deepest, darkest Africa, Hulkster. But more on that later in the program. Right now, we go to the announcers. Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura on the call. And up first, it is hair versus hair. Losing hair, something that Jesse knows a lot about, says Vince McMahon. On the contrary, Ventura says, there's only one man that knows about going bald. As we take you now backstage to Mean Gene Okerlund and the Outlaw, Ron Bass.
Ron Bass, you're up against a man who's on a mission, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. After what you did to him with those spurs and
You mean the Maverick Brothers, Brett and Bart?
and that whip.
Yeah, Miss Betsy. You mean good old Miss Betsy.
Okay, why did you agree, Ron Bass, to a haircut match of all things? Remember what Brutus the Barber Beefcake did to your hat? What he did to Miss Betsy? Remember what he did to Jimmy
You
Hart?
remember, Shorty? While I'm busy letting the Maverick Brothers, Brett and Bart, tenderize that meathead. And you know, they love to dance, especially when Miss Betsy's, she's calling the tune.
All right, for a man whose head, or at least his hair, is on the chopping block, I can't believe it, a very confident Outlaw Ron Bass heads into the ring for this one tonight.
Well, there you hear it. A confident Outlaw says Miss Betsy and the Maverick Brothers, Brett and Bart, once again, going to tenderize the barber here tonight. We even get highlights of the Outlaw Beefcake feud. A special reminder there that Brutus Beefcake started this entire ordeal, as the body points out, cutting the Outlaw's cowboy hat and Miss Betsy. Bass's revenge saw him debut the Maverick Brothers, slicing the Beefer's head wide open the following week and taking him out of his Intercontinental title shot at SummerSlam. The feud has gone on since then, and right now we go on backstage one more time. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the barber.
All right, that is some very gruesome footage that we have just eyewitnessed, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. How can you forget the horror that you experienced that night when you face Outlaw Ron Bass in tonight's haircut match?
I don't want to forget it. I want to remember it all. I want to remember it when I'm cutting all his hair off. And I want him to remember the face of the barber.
All right, Brutus Beefcake, none of this is going to bring back that title shot that Outlaw Ron Bass cost you. What is it with this haircut match? Is it a matter of revenge?
A matter of revenge? It's a matter of hair. And if you had any, you'd know what mattered.
All right, Vince, Brutus the Barber has a strange obsession that I can't quite explain. Can Outlaw Ron Bass handle it? We'll find out tonight in the ring. Back to you.
Well, a little confusion there at the beginning of the promo. Mean Gene asking, how can you forget the horror you experienced, Brutus Beefcake? Is it horror or horror, Gene? Could be both, knowing the barber. Beefcake doesn't want to forget the horror of the attack from the Outlaw back last August. He wants to remember it all, because tonight it's sweet revenge on the mind of the barber. Strange obsession with hair? A strange obsession indeed, Mean Gene. Brutus Beefcake looking to cut the hair of the Outlaw. Ron Bass looking to do the same to the barber. And right now we go to the ring, hair versus hair, or as Vince calls it, a haircut match, pal. It's going to see Brutus the Barber Beefcake taking on the Outlaw, Ron Bass. And a big pop for the barber as he makes his way down, but the Outlaw going to attack Brudi as he tries to enter the ring, choking Beefer out with Miss Betsy. But Brutus driving Bass back into the corner to escape, and now it's the barber's turn with control of the bullwhip. Beefcake grabbing hold of Miss Betsy, cracking the whip to comical post-production cartoon sounds of a whip snapping. They actually forget to make a sound for one of the snaps, and you kind of hear the thud on the mat there. But yeah, very, very interesting cartoon sounds there for the whip snap of one Miss Betsy as the Barber in control, but finally referee Joey Morella going to take Miss Betsy away, and Beefcake able to finally remove his ring jacket. And the action reconvenes, but Ron Bass runs right into a high knee, and right back out to the floor goes the Outlaw. Brutus not going to let Bass back inside, knocking him off the apron repeatedly, and a little strutting from the Barber here, and we know we'll see some cutting, but from who when this thing is over? Bass finally back in the ring, but runs into a series of big punches from Brutus, and the Barber mounts the Outlaw and drives a good 15 punches into Ron's skull, meanwhile the referee allowing all of this to happen. Finally, Bass countering mounted punches in the corner by carrying Beefcake out, center ring with an inverted atomic drop, followed up by a gutbuster, then placing the Barber across the turnbuckles for a punt kick, sending Brutus off the top turnbuckles out to the floor. What a mean, nasty varmint this Outlaw is. Bass allowing Brutus finally to get back in the ring continues to beat down on the Barber with a pile driver, but Ron Bass stopping short of making the cover. Could be a huge mistake, Outlaw. Bass not done yet, pulls Beefer up from a second and even a third cover following a very stiff clothesline. Wanting to humiliate Beefcake, it would seem here. Bass going to go to the corner, grabs Brutus' hedge clippers, looking to really do some damage, but Joey Morella taking them away. So instead, the Outlaw looking for another big clothesline, Texas-style lariat perhaps, but this time Brutus ducks and catches the Outlaw on the rebound with his patented sleeper hold. And just like that, straight into the sleeper, and the Outlaw begins to fade. Close to the ropes, but can't manage to reach him. Ron Bass begins to sink down, sitting on the mat as it looks like night-night time for the Outlaw. His hair on the line, but he can't fight the hold. His hand raised 3 times and drops 3 times. And yes, Brutus Beefcake gets the win, putting Ron Bass to sleep 7 minutes and 39 seconds. And per these stipulations, we will now have us a bald Outlaw, it would seem. The Barber going to strut around, soaking in the wind, trotting out his hedge clippers as we take a commercial break. Then back from break, we see the Outlaw, still out of it, but now sitting up with a barber smock around his neck. Beefcake begins to immediately start the trimming with scissors. The cutting of the Outlaw's hair has begun, and then out come the trimmers. Beefcake shaving it down to nothing, the hair down to, yes, a bald Ron Bass, and Beefer eating up his new style creation here. A true haircut, I would say. And of course, like any good babyface, a little slap on the back to wake Bass up afterwards. And as the Barber bails in celebration, Ron Bass comes to, realizing he is now bald. Yes, the Outlaw, getting up in a huff, charges to the backstage area, looking for the Barber, no doubt, but apparently, much like the Desperados and Stan Hansen, circa 1991 WCW, Ron Bass never finds the Barber. As the feud concludes with a fun payoff here on NBC, which honestly probably should have happened a couple months ago, but it is what it is. Match itself was not offensive. Started off hot. They hit Brutus's limitations. Quick offense for the Outlaw here. Never got to go for his patented Texas pedigree, unfortunately, but the sleeper hold does in fact come out, and obviously the right man does go over here. You know, going back, outside of that little verbal joust between Ron Bass and Blackjack Mulligan way back at the beginning of 1987, this marked Bass's one and only real feud in the company. Again, it did go on a bit too long, but they were saving it for a blow-off on NBC, at the very least. Now, this was never about the wrestling match per se, just the head-shaving payoff, so good job by all guys involved. Crowd loved it, they ate it up, it was over, and it was given a good spot here to open Saturday night's main event. The Barber moves on to bigger things, as we know, but sadly, this was the Outlaw's peak in the company. Ron Bass going to be gone from the WWF briefly before WrestleMania 5. So another angle, another storyline, another feud in the books, it would seem, as we progress into 1989. And right now, we progress our way backstage. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the Doctor of Style Slick in the newly named Twin Towers.
All right, I thank you, Vince. Slickster, I have a question for you concerning your apparent obsession to rid the World Wrestling Federation of Hulk Hogan. First of all, you sprayed mace in his face, and then you watched as the big boss man handcuffed him and repeatedly flailed away with that billy club. It was the worst beating I've ever seen Hulk Hogan take. And now, your other representative, the nearly 500-pound African Dream Akeem, no doubt will try to attempt to splash Hulk Hogan tonight flat.
Well, Holmes, you're finally getting the idea. And I know Hulk Hogan is too.
Now, wait a minute. Let me point out, Hulk Hogan is signed for a one-on-one confrontation with Akeem. What is the Big Boss Man doing here?
Well, homeboy. See, Hulk Hogan is an habitual rule breaker, you know? Oh, all right, come on, you know what I'm talking about. A repeat offender. So the Big Boss Man is here simply to observe that law and order prevails.
All right, I thank you very much, gentlemen. Please give me a break. I don't think law and order will prevail, especially against those odds. Vince, let's get back to you.
Gene, uncertain why the Big Boss Man is here standing alongside Slick and Akeem for this next contest. Well, Slick says that's because Hulk Hogan is a habitual lawbreaker and line stepper. Big Boss Man simply here to maintain law and order. Makes sense to me, guys. Well, we've got another one we're going to hear now from the other side of the coin, talking about Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with, it looks like, the entire unit of the Mega Powers. That's Hulk Hogan, of course, along with the WWF champion Macho Man Randy Savage, and yes, the lovely Miss Elizabeth.
All right, Hulkster, I must admit, I believe the odds are stacked against you tonight. Not only do you have to contend with the near 500-pound African Dream, Akeem, but you're also going to have to be aware of his twin tower, the Big Boss Man, who is going to be lurking around the ringside perimeter.
My maniacs and I, Mean Gene, have faced insurmountable odds before. But with my mega partner manager, the lovely Elizabeth, at ringside, you can bet that Lady Luck's going to be riding high on my shoulder tonight.
Yes, Hulk, but luck is only one factor in this match tonight. With all due respect to your manager, Hulk Hogan, I believe you're outmanned tonight.
Man!
Hey, Macho Man Randy Savage!
Man! The Macho Man Randy Savage right here, right now, participating, yeah. I knew it, Mean Gene. When the chips are down, my mega power partner, the Macho Man, always comes through. Now I'll have eyes in the back of my head. And that's exactly the reason that I'm here right now, to keep an eye on things, yeah. With the lovely Elizabeth in my corner at ringside and the Macho Man with his eyes open, it seems as though the scales of justice have tipped a little bit more in the Hulkster's way. Let's do it, lovely Elizabeth.
I agree. I believe they have tipped indeed, Macho Man.
Well, guess what? You're with me. Got a real special place where we can keep an eye on things. Yeah!
Want to spend it with anybody else but you, Macho Man?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, as you heard, we opened the promo there. Mean Gene talking about the Hulkster and Miss Elizabeth. What will Hogan do with the Boss Man now ringside too? Enter the Macho Man, who promises that he has the Hulkster's back. Mega powers for life. Well, we'll wait and see how that plays out as the Hulkster and Liz head for the ring. Randy Savage going to take Mean Gene off to a special place, where they can watch the upcoming match together. Okay, kind of interesting. Now we take a commercial break during the introductions. We come back with Sean Mooney's Mountain Dew Slam of the Night, featuring the WWF Tag Team Champions Axe and Smash Demolition. Now they don't have a match here on Saturday night's main event, but they do get a little segment here to put the tag team champions over. Demolition using their decapitation to put away another enhancement team. And then it's back to the ring for the big action, talking about Hulk Hogan with the lovely Miss Elizabeth. Remember, Randy Savage remaining backstage. His opponent here tonight, the African Dream Akeem, who does have his manager Slick in his corner, but also Twin Tower partner, the Big Boss Man. And after the intros, we see Randy Savage and Mean Gene in some dark locker room somewhere, the catacombs, watching the match on a monitor. And the bell sounds underway. Akeem tries to jump the Hulkster from behind, but Hogan out of the way, and Akeem hits the buckle instead. Hulkster then drags Slick in over the top rope, tossing him onto Akeem, both heels going down. Hulk Hogan on top, covering both men. Slick and Akeem gets 1, 2, kick out there from the heels. And the heel's going to retreat to the floor as Vince McMahon gives us one of his patented laughs. Ha ha ha, you made assholes of those guys, pal. Once Akeem back inside, but Hogan drilling him again with big right hands, even stuffs his Hulkamania bandana into the mouth of the African Dream, dropping him again with a big punch center ring. Hogan then sliding outside, blasting the Boss Man from out of nowhere, then scooping Slick up again, dumping him onto the Boss Man on the outside, as the Hulkster clearly running wild tonight, taking on Not just the Twin Towers, but their manager Slick, all at the same time, it would seem. Then back in the ring, Hogan unloading on Akeem again, mocking and dancing the African Dream, and Akeem, even funnier, dancing while he sells here. Great selling and bumps by the near 500-pound former one-man gang, but Hulk Hogan makes the mistake of trying to slam the so-called African a little too early in the match. Going to pay for it here. Akeem clubbing away on the Hulkster, works him over briefly, but misses an avalanche splash in the corner, and Hogan right back on top, rocking Akeem, takes 2 clotheslines, but Hogan does drop the big man down to the mat, and then clotheslines the boss man off the apron to boot. Hogan all over the Twin Towers, all on his own, but let's see how long this lasts, guys. I mean, it is 2 pretty big guys on the other side of the ring from one Hulk Hogan. As the action continues on, Akeem grabbing a wrist lock, but the fans chants for Hogan. Hogan sees Hulk Hogan escape quickly. Running elbow, going to floor the dance machine Akeem, but the big boss man once again back up on the apron. Hogan, though, whipping Akeem into the boss man, knocking him back off of the apron. Maybe it's Hogan that's the one-man gang here, just taking out both Twin Towers all match long. Akeem going to plead as Hulk takes him back by his beard, works him over in the corner. Boss man finally going to run a distraction with referee Dave Hebner, which allows Akeem time to pull Hebner in the way of a charging Hulkster clothesline in the corner, which leads to Hogan inadvertently sandwiching Hebner into Akeem in the corner. And down goes the referee, and in comes the boss man. Big boss man immediately begins clubbing Hogan down with a nightstick. Slick barking orders from the floor. Akeem holding Hogan as the boss man working over the ribs of the Hulkster here. We then cut back to the backstage area. Randy Savage, Mean Gene Okerlund watching on. Gene, concerned for the Hulkster. Looks like he could use some help, Randy Savage. But no, says the Macho Man, confident that his Mega Powers partner can make a comeback on his own, make the rebound, all on his own. The power of Hulkamania, I suppose. But the Twin Towers double clothesline using the nightstick there. Down goes Hulk Hogan, and the boss man then holding the Hulkster in place for the big 747 splash, which connects. And again for a second time, and even again, a trifecta of Air Africa, big splashes, connecting on the Hulkster here. Brother! And it seems like all hope may be lost here. But then we get a familiar scene. The darting of Miss Elizabeth straight to the locker room. No doubt off to find the Macho Man as we head into a commercial break. Back from break, the match continues. The referee begins to stir as Akeem goes to the middle rope for a giant-sized splash. Uh-oh, look out, Hulkster. And we cut to the backstage area, the locker room. Now, for some reason, very well lit. I guess someone decided to flip the switch. Randy Savage and Mean Gene still, quote-unquote, watching what appears to actually be a very bright TV screen. But in comes the lovely Elizabeth, grabbing the champion by his arm, trying to pull him away to help the Hulkster. But, never. Randy Savage thinks Hulk Hogan has things covered, refusing to leave with the lovely Liz. Macho thinks that Hogan has this. He doesn't need any help. Elizabeth clearly disagreeing here, pleading with Randy Savage, but to no avail. And so the lovely manager of the Mega Powers leaves the locker room and rushes back to ringside as we see Macho Man continuing to cheer the Hulkster on. Come on, Hulkster. At this point, it appears Akeem missed that big middle rope splash, and it likely looked bad since they opted not to show it here in the editing process. But Akeem now laying on the mat, the Hulkster beginning to work his way back to his feet after dodging a monster Air Africa, which apparently made a crash landing center ring. And now it's time for Hulk Hogan to Hulk up. He is indeed hulking up with a little Akeem-style dancing in between. Hulkster going to unload big clothesline, floors the Dream. Hogan then knocks both Boss Man and Slick off the apron, grabbing Akeem by his beard once again. Well, that's not very sportsmanlike, Hulkster. But blasting the African Dream as we get another cut backstage, seeing Randy Savage happy to see his Mega Powers partner make the big comeback, just like he knew he could. Exactly, Randy. Then it's back to the ring where Hogan slides out to the floor, rolling outside, attacking the big boss man, atomic dropping Slick into the former prison guard on the floor. Then back in the ring, it's the big boot on Akeem, stuns the big man, followed by a huge body slam, dropping Akeem down to the mat. Hulk then off the ropes for the big leg drop, going to finish this one, but runs right into a boss man nightstick shot from behind, right into the spine of the Hulkster here. And down goes Hogan as Dave Hebner calls for the bell. Disqualification for outside interference. Hulk Hogan going to go over here at about 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, we're not done yet. Post-match, in comes the boss man as Elizabeth continues to look towards the back for help. But no one comes. Akeem going to dispose of the referee, pitch Hebner to the floor, and the Twin Towers double-teaming the Hulkster here. More nightstick shots drop Hogan back down to the mat. Then all three heels turn their attention to Miss Elizabeth, standing in the corner. Get out of there, Liz. The boss man walking over places his handcuff on the wrist of Elizabeth, threatening to do a whole lot more. Harm the First Lady of the World Wrestling Federation. And only then, out comes Randy Savage, wielding a chair in hand, chasing the heels from the ring, swinging the chair in defense. And while Macho holding off the Twin Towers, Elizabeth quickly darts to tend to the downed Hulkster, her concern for one of her men. And as the heels leave ringside, Randy Savage turns to see Elizabeth down on her knees, looking over the Hulkster. Macho then slamming the chair down, putting his hands on his hips as he looks at the situation in front of him. The champion doesn't exactly look ecstatic that his manager is tending to Hogan for some odd reason. Macho then going to grab Elizabeth by her arm, pulling her away from tending to Hulk, even yanking her by that arm, and arguing with the lovely Liz, who's trying to explain herself. I don't know, this situation looks awfully familiar, guys. Hulk Hogan going to roll out to the floor and begins to stagger away, not realizing what's going on in the ring. Elizabeth going to leave the ring to aid the Hulkster in walking down that aisle back to the locker room. Savage trailing behind, turning back several times to pan to the camera. And if he weren't wearing sunglasses, you might say the Macho Man has paranoia in his eyes. But what is in the eyes of the Hulkster? Wow, man, a lot to unpack here. For a match, Hogan has good opponents and not so good opponents. His matches with the gang and Akeem never really seemed to click. Even though Akeem did some great selling, great bumping for Hogan, or anyone for that matter, I could have done without the Hogan manhandling both Twin Towers at the same time ordeal. This doesn't really rank very high for a good Hogan match here for the WWF, but the storytelling, much like all of the Mega Power storyline, was absolutely tremendous. Even with the Big Boss Man cornering Akeem, Savage refused to go out in the corner of the Hulkster, claiming confidence that Hulk Hogan could handle business for himself. And even after multiple 2-on-1 and even 3-on-1 situations, with a nightstick to boot, Savage continued to shut down Mean Gene and even his own manager Elizabeth's concerns, refusing to go ringside, convinced that Hulk Hogan can get the job done, get the situation done on his own. Now, if I didn't know any better, I might think that Randy Savage was hoping for something bad to happen to the Hulkster. Certainly didn't go unnoticed by the cynical mind of one Jesse Ventura anyway. It wasn't until the Twin Towers put their hands on the lovely Elizabeth that the Macho Man finally made his way down to the ring and make the save, but for his manager, his woman, not necessarily the Hulkster, it would seem. And if there was even a glimpse of hope, believing that we're reading too much into this, that everything was fine in the camp of the Mega Powers, the Macho Man's behavior with Elizabeth at the end certainly seemed the contrary. For the first time in a long time, Randy Savage yelling at Liz, questioning her, even jerking her around by the arm, getting physical with Elizabeth here. And there was no mistake in the post-match mannerisms of the WWF champion. His facials, the body language, definitely questioning if there's more going on with Liz and his partner in crime, Hulk Hogan. So, where do we go from here? Only time will tell. But I believe we'll hear from the Mega Powers before the end of tonight's program, so stay tuned. For now. And right now, we're going to take this quick WrestleCopia timeout.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at uswapodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. But that's not all. You can also check out the Pro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puroresu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
All right, guys, we be back. Lots going on already here on Saturday night's main event. We saw the cutting of the hair of the Outlaw Ron Bass and perhaps issues in the camp of the Mega Powers. They're going to talk about that a little later, maybe resolve those issues before the end of this episode. We'll have to wait and see. Right now, though, we go backstage. Once again, Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the former Intercontinental Champion, the Honky Tonk Man, and his manager, Jimmy Hart.
All right, Honky Tonk Man and Colonel Jimmy Hart, it's a familiar situation seeing the two of you with the Intercontinental title on the line. Things have changed, however, since SummerSlam. No longer is this man the champion. As a matter of fact, tonight, you are the challenger. Now, Honky Tonk, does that change your strategy?
No, Mean Gene. My strategy never changes. I just go about being the greatest Intercontinental heavyweight champion of all time.
Heavyweight, that's for sure, yes.
The Ultimate Warrior stole the belt in a surprise tackle at SummerSlam. Everybody knows who the real champion is. He is the People's Champion. Tonight, the Honky Tonk Man's going to make history by being the only man to recapture the Intercontinental Championship.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. And thank all of you for your support in my effort to gain the belt back. and I'm not going to let you down. You're a beautiful audience. Come on, Jimmy, my fans are waiting.
Let's go, Honky.
All right, he loved being a champion, and he's going to try very hard tonight to regain that belt. Vince, let's go back to you.
Well, Jimmy Hart claiming that Honky Tonk will become the first man to repeat as an IC champion. Well, I'm sure Pedro, Morocco, and Tito Santana would have something to say about that, Jimmy, but okay. The Ultimate Warrior stole the belt, they say, at SummerSlam, but Honky Tonk will return to being the People's Champion here tonight. All for his beautiful audience. And now we're going to hear from the other side of the story. We're going to go backstage once again. Mean Gene talking with the current Intercontinental Champion, the Ultimate Warrior.
Well, Ultimate Warrior, your Intercontinental title is on the line against the man that you won it from. Some say, including Colonel Jimmy Hart, that the element of surprise was in your favor when you beat the Honky Tonk Man. Why give him this shot when he can now study the films of your style? He was a champion for a long time, and he can make use of every advantage. Why risk it?
The Ultimate Warrior denies himself no victory! Victory was mine once, and it will be again! My opponent only knows defeat, and I will not deny him!
All right, it's a fine line between confidence and recklessness, Vince. Has the Ultimate Warrior crossed that line? We're going to find out soon. Let's get back to you.
Mean Gene asking the question, why give Honky Tonk a shot now, Warrior, now that he's had time to study you? Warrior responds, Honky only knows defeat, and Warrior won't deny him of that feeling. I kind of like that line there by the Ultimate Warrior. As we go to the ring, it is time. Intercontinental title on the line. The champion, the Ultimate Warrior, taking on the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time, or so he says. I'm talking about the Honky Tonk Man with manager Colonel Jimmy Hart. Honky gonna try to start the match off on the floor by doing what he does best, stalling here. But the Intercontinental champ Warrior gonna follow him out, laying into the challenger on the outside. Honky gonna try to bail up the aisle, clearly knocked back into 1987 or 88, thinking he can leave on a countout and retain his title. Only unfortunately, Honky, it's not your title anymore. Jimmy Hart reminding Honky, stopping him in the middle of the aisle, you gotta finish this match in the ring if you want to win the belt back. But as Honky turns around in the aisle, Warrior Man waiting for him right there, scooping Honky up in a gorilla press position and walking Honky down the aisle all the way back to ringside, pressing Honky Tonk Man back in the ring. Warrior going to follow him inside for a big boot by the champion in a double Naga knocker between Honk sending Jimmy Hart off the apron there, as the IC champion gonna dominate the Elvis impersonator. 10 punches in the corner and likely 10 knots on the head of the Honky Tonk Man after that. Warrior running shoulder block in the corner for good measure. But as the champion tries it again, rushing into the corner, nobody home. Warrior crashing into the buckle, and down he goes. Jimmy Hart then going to distract referee Joey Morella as Honky Tonk Man grabs hold of the megaphone and begins whacking Warrior in the ribs repeatedly down on the mat. Get the megaphone, baby! That's it, Jimmy Hart throwing in the megaphone, distracting the referee, allowing Honky Tonk to do a little damage there with the foreign object, if you will. From there, the former champion Honky Tonk punching and stomping away, even Jimmy Hart getting a brief choke-in on UW, but the crowd rallying behind the champion, loud stomping and clapping, and the Warrior comes shaking back. He's warrioring up, so to speak, shaking the ropes, and big clothesline sets up for the big splash by the Ultimate Warrior, but no, Honky Tonk gets his knees up. Warrior splash on the knees of the Honky Tonk Man, and the challenger going to make the cover. 1, 2, but the Warrior kicks out, and with authority. Now both men back to their feet. Honky Tonk whiffing on a clothesline. The Warrior ducks under, connects on the rebound with his patented flying shoulder tackle. And the champ goes straight for the cover, and the 1, 2, 3. Wow. And just like that, your winner and still Intercontinental Champion, the Ultimate Warrior. Match only goes 5 minutes and 6 seconds. And similar in some ways to their house show matches recently, Honky Tonk Man did manage to dodge pinfalls in the first wave of bouts back in the fall, but the return matches proved to put an end to the feud across the country. And now we've seen it here nationally on NBC from coast to coast. An exclamation point, if you will, on a feud that started at SummerSlam. And now definitively ends here at the beginning of 1989. Another feud laid to rest as we prepare for new things. The Warrior off for a super pose down with Rick Rude at next weekend's Royal Rumble. Meanwhile, the Honky Tonk Man appears to have been slapped into a team with Greg Valentine at the moment, just earlier today on Superstars, blasting a guitar over the head of the Hitman Bret Hart. So lots going on here as we move into the new year. Some feuds now being put behind. Honky Tonk Man does one last definitive job right here on NBC pinfall loss to the Ultimate Warrior, who heads into 1989 with a whole lot of steam behind him. And right now, we're going to go backstage, no doubt going to hear some gloating, happy heels as Mean Gene conducts an interview with the Twin Towers and Slick.
All right, after what we saw happen to Hulk Hogan, severely beaten by the big boss man, splashed by Akeem, Slick, what are you trying to accomplish?
But you know what? It ought to be quite obvious even to an ordinary person like yourself. Yes, I'm ecstatic, and the Twin Towers are elated because Hulk Hogan just received another brutal beating. And you know what? I'm wondering just how close, how tight are the Mega Powers? How close are they? I don't know about them, brother, but believe me, the Twin Towers here, we're just like family, Daddy.
All right, I know how you could be in this jovial mood. It's a real mystery to me, Slick.
Well, brother, believe me when I tell you, it shouldn't be a mystery. How many more of these beatings can Hulk Hogan survive? Remember that what the big boss man started, Akeem finishes.
All right, I thank you very much, gentlemen. We've heard from the Twin Towers. I am going to endeavor before we get off the air to find out for myself how tight the Mega Powers are.
Slickster gloating, Hulk Hogan just received another beatdown at the hands of his men, but also calls into question just how close the Mega Powers really are after what we just watched out there in the ring. The Twin Towers, on the other hand, they're just like family, brother. And speaking of families, we go backstage yet again. This time it's Jesse the Body Ventura, who's going to interview Bobby the Brain Heenan and a member of his family, the Red Rooster.
Well, Bobby the Brain Heenan, you've done the impossible once again.
Jesse, I do the impossible every single day.
Bobby, I'm referring to the Red Rooster. You took a wrestler with limited ability and single-handedly made him a contender and taken him to the top of the World Wrestling Federation. He's undefeated.
Yes, he is undefeated. And you're right, Jesse. I've taken this wrestler out of nothing, and I've made something out of him. But he's got limited speed.
He's pretty slow, all right.
I'm not that slow.
He's got limited strength.
Yeah, he's kind of puny.
And he's got limited skills.
Yeah, he's pretty clumsy, too.
I'm not that
But he's got the one thing that it's going to take to make him a winner in the World Wrestling Federation.
And what might that be, Bobby?
That's Bobby the Brain Heenan's brain. And I'm going to tell you something. I've done my part up to now. You're wrestling Tito Santana, one of the toughest wrestlers in the World Wrestling Federation.
I'm ready.
Don't embarrass me. I've done my part. You do yours. Let's go. Come on.
Always good to see real communication between a wrestler and his manager. Back to you, McMahon.
Well, there you hear it. Bobby Heenan talking his Red Rooster's limited abilities. He took a nothing and made him into something. And that's because he's got the one thing that will make Terry a somebody. Bobby Heenan's brain. Ventura and Heenan then taking turns trashing Terry Taylor's ability, or lack thereof. Rooster trying to get a word in edgewise to defend himself, but it's a no-go. He's been undefeated since coming under the guidance of Heenan. Bobby tells the Rooster, "Don't embarrass me tonight." Perhaps a foreshadowing of things to come as we go back to the ring singles action. Gonna see Arriba Tito Santana take on the Red Rooster with manager Bobby Heenan by his side. And it looks like for the first time ever, we've got a manager mic'd up for the contest. We can hear everything the Brain says here tonight. We get to hear coaching from Bobby Heenan. Well, that's interesting. Some may call it a hell of a coincidence, given what's about to happen, but let's go to the ring. We also catch a glimpse ringside of George Steinbrenner, seated there, first row, of course, famously known as the cutthroat businessman and once the principal owner and managing partner of the New York Yankees. Jesse Ventura claiming that George to be here as an invited guest of the Body. Sure, Jesse, whatever you say. Immediately, we hear Bobby shouting through his microphone at the Rooster for not following up on the offense early on. And this distraction allows Tito Santana to land a drop kick and get a near fall. Bobby, upset at his charge, turns to Steinbrenner and asks, "What do you do with people like this?" George replies, "Fire him." Bobby agreeing, "You're exactly right." But in the ring, the Rooster does take control, lands a double stomp, to the gut of Tito Santana, followed by his patented Terry Taylor jawbreaker, but fails to hook the tights per his manager's request. Santana able to kick out and fight back. Heenan clearly far more vocal than usual, very noticeable on the microphone gimmick here. As Tito Santana now in control, Rooster gonna block a figure 4 attempt, however, and escape over to the ropes. But Heenan then physically grabbing hold of the Red Rooster, yanking him, pulling him through the ropes and out to the floor. The Brain then shouting, belittling the Rooster outside, but Terry Taylor up to his feet, shoving his manager right back. Heenan then gonna get in the Rooster's face, but Taylor shoving him back again. And this time, Bobby gonna back off. Rooster very upset as we take a commercial break. And then back from break, it is the Red Rooster up on the apron, tries to suplex Tito Santana out to the floor, but Tito reversing suplexing the Rooster back inside. Santana, though, going to telegraph a backdrop, and Terry Taylor right back on top of things, gets a backbreaker here, and gets himself a 2 count there on Santana. Tito going to counter a suplex into an inside cradle for another surprise near fall, and Heenan becoming livid yet again at his little Red Rooster. Meanwhile, Santana running into a Rooster boot in the corner, Heenan shouting at Terry for wasting time, and in all actuality, it's the Rooster trying to recover from the offense of Santana. But Terry going to follow that up with a nice pile driver, but he's late on the cover, only gets a 2 count, and that has Bobby fired up on the outside. Rooster, though, going to follow that up with a stun gun. Across the middle rope there, Santana's throat goes, and now looking for the cock of the walk, the Scorpion Deathlock, the sharpshooter, if you will here. Rooster looking to hook it on. It's been his finisher in recent weeks here on TV, but Tito going to punch his way free, clotheslining Terry out to the floor once again. And as the Rooster lays on the floor, Bobby Heenan standing over top of him, shouting at him, sick of him. Bobby, feeling humiliated, grabs the Rooster up by his trunks and tosses his own man back in the ring. But as the red cock jumps up, questioning Heenan, his back turned to the match, the distraction allows Santana, a schoolboy, that gets 1, 2, 3. Tito Santana has pinned the, until now, undefeated Red Rooster. Match goes 7 minutes and 27 seconds. But we are not done yet, guys. Post-match, Bobby Heenan stomping into the ring. Terry Taylor's undefeated streak now gone. Bobby Heenan shouting and jerking the Rooster around. Heenan stating, "Rooster, you just humiliated me." Terry says he doesn't need the Brain anymore. Bobby questioning, "What do you mean you don't need me anymore?" And then the Brain slaps the Rooster. Bobby quipping, "Maybe you need that." But as the Brain turns his back, the Rooster fires up. Angry now, Terry Taylor gets a little cocky, if you will. But as Bobby turns around, he realizes he has pissed off and gone afoul with the wrong Rooster. See what I did there, guys? Bobby Heenan now, he wants to shake hands, make amends, but Terry Taylor gives him a hand across the face. The Red Rooster giving it back to Bobby Heenan, knocking him around now, whipping him into the corners. A big slap across the face of the Brain, a little revenge slap there from the Red Rooster, and a wind-up punch, Popeye style, has Bobby Heenan cutting a backflip in the ring. Great sell job, and Bobby Heenan rolling out to the floor. As it would appear, the Red Rooster, part of the Heenan family, no more. No more stealing money, no more slapping Terry Taylor around. A disheveled and dejected Bobby Heenan leaves ringside as the Red Rooster stands tall. Well, as tall as a guy who calls himself the Red Rooster can stand anyway. But the fans chanting, "Rooster, Rooster." Unbelievable. Well, cock-a-doodle-doo. Whew, one more match to go, guys, and right now we're going to see about that match as we go backstage. We're going to hear from Mean Gene Okerlund, who interviews Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig.
All right, with me at this time, a newcomer to Saturday night's main event. He is Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. Now, Curt, I did that.
You call me Mr. Perfect.
All right, Mr. Perfect. I understand they call you that for a good reason, right?
Not a good reason, a perfect reason. I make no mistakes. I am perfect. I am Mr. Perfect.
All right, Mr. Perfect. I understand that you've introduced a new move, a new hold to the World Wrestling Federation. I'm curious, what is it called and how does it work?
Well, Mean Gene, I have the perfect wrestling hold, and I call it the Perfect Plex. How does it work? Perfectly, as Koko B. Ware will see tonight. Do I make myself clear?
Perfectly.
I thought so.
All right, Vince, I don't know if that was the perfect interview, but it's the best I can do. Let's go back to you.
Well, we start right off talking to Curt Hennig. Nope, you can call him Mr. Perfect. And he earned that name for a perfect reason. He talks about his perfect wrestling hold, the perfect Plex. And it works, how else, but perfectly. As Koko B. Ware will find out tonight, Curt Hennig, or Mr. Perfect, calling his shots, removing his name from the gimmick, going all in on the perfect character. Indeed. So we go back to the ring for one final match here tonight on SNME. It is Mr. Perfect taking on the Birdman. Koko B. Ware and Hennig wasting no time, coming after Koko here, working him over in the corner, but Ware battling back, sending Hennig packing to regroup outside on the floor. But once back inside, it's Mr. Perfect back in control. Koko going to try to use his speed to take Hennig down. Fun spot when Mr. Perfect goes to the head of Ware, trying to ram his head in the buckle. Koko, of course, no selling. So what does Perfect do? He elbows him right in the face. Works every time. And a nice standing dropkick here from Mr. P. Sends the Birdman back to the floor. Now Koko battling back into the ring, briefly taking control before missing a corner charge and then stumbling straight in to the perfect Plex, which gets the win 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Just like that. No real time for anyone to shine here, but we do get to see the NBC debut of Mr. Perfect and his perfect Plex, which he just proved can be landed and work out of nowhere. Still undefeated here going into 1989. It's 1 week down, but 51 to go. And I do believe Curt Hennig just might make it perfectly. And as we begin to wrap up this edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, we go backstage one final time. As promised, we were going to hear from the Mega Powers. Here's Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the Hulkster and the Macho Man.
All right, gentlemen, there is some speculation as to friction that may exist between the Mega Powers. Hulk Hogan, I want to find out.
Well, you know, Mean Gene, the only thing that you should be speculating on, brother, is that when you mess with a Thunder, you gotta mess with a Lightning. And when you mess with one half of the Mega Powers, you gotta mess with both of us. Just like I said, Mean Gene, when the chips were down, the Mega Power brother, Macho Man Randy Savage, would be there, man. Right when I was down to my last beating, the last lick of the stick, down to my last breath, brother, the Macho Man showed up just in time to save me and the lovely Elizabeth. And the worst fear of all, brother, the worst fear the Mega Power has of all is that the Twin Towers and the Slickster would get their hands on the lovely Elizabeth. But body, mind, soul, the lovely Elizabeth, Macho Man, and Hulk Hogan, the Mega Power team, are as one. We breathe the same air, drink the same water, sleep the same sleep, brother. Yeah. And as far as the Macho Man goes, everything that I felt out in the ring, he felt it too, brother, because we are as one.
Mega Powers as one, and every time you got splashed, it was like being shocked in the electric chair. Time and time again, the joltage went up, up, up.
How about the stick?
In the back of the neck, my neck hurt. Yeah, and in the lower back, my lower back hurt. And your arm, your elbow, all over you and me as one. But when they handcuffed Elizabeth, when they handcuffed her around her wrist, there the pain went to my neck.
I felt it in the ring. I felt it in the ring. I felt like I was being choked off too when they got her.
Something right now. The Mega Powers, we feel the same pain, and the glory happens together. We're together all the way.
You know something, Macho Man? With the Mega Powers united as one, body, mind, and soul, the lovely Elizabeth.
The bonding, the unification of the Mega Powers, Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan. We've cleared the air on this one. Vince, back to you.
Well, Mean Gene asking the question, is there indeed friction in the Mega Powers? Well, the Hulkster, oblivious, doesn't think so. He claims that the Mega Powers, they eat, they drink, they sleep the same life, brother. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost out there, the Hulkster was doomed. It was the Macho Man who made the save, dude. Hogan, clearly, again, oblivious to Randy Savage's real intentions out there, but the Macho Man swears with every Akeem splash, with every shot of the Big Boss Man's nightstick, Savage felt it too. It was like an electric chair, The Mega Powers, they feel the same pain. They are together all the way. As we get then the mega handshake, Mean Gene and even Vince McMahon feel we've resolved the issues. No problems here, pal. Jesse Ventura? sure doesn't think so, calling this a controversy and cover-up. So says the body. Vince then going to bid us adieu from Tampa. And when we return here to NBC, it'll be next month, a live prime-time edition of the main event, Friday night, February the 3rd. And you guys have no idea how important a part in wrestling history that's going to play. Or maybe you do. Well, the storytelling for the Mega Powers has been next level. You really can't find a fault or a flaw in it. And the best is yet to come with the Royal Rumble, the main event, and of course, WrestleMania 5. Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Miss Elizabeth, and then of course you have the perfect foil of the two monsters to overcome in the Twin Towers. Macho Man seemingly avoiding saving Hulk Hogan while at the same time claiming to have faith in the Hulkster. Only when Elizabeth became in trouble did Randy Savage rush to ringside, which was still a babyface thing to do, no doubt, but only to shake Elizabeth around when she was busy pandering to the injured Hulkster, instead of thanking Randy Savage for making the save. Now, I tend to lean the way of the body here. There's more to this story than meets the eye. We're going to keep a close eye on this situation in the weeks to come. But what is in the eyes of the Hulkster, brother? Maybe we'll find out. And that's going to wrap it up here this week. Another edition of the Grenade in the Books. Saturday night's main event behind us. Now, again, a reminder, guys, you want to check out the watch along, the fun we had, me and Gene Jackson going back in time and watching this and kind of sharing our memories and thoughts of the time period and everything going on screen. The mannerisms, the reaction of Randy Savage, just masterful, and everything that goes together with that. You guys can check that out. It's part of the big ones on the ultimate tier of patreon.com/WrestleCopia. I hope you enjoyed this. The Royal Rumble 89 also going to be coming to patreon.com/WrestleCopia and the big ones collection. So you're definitely going to sign up now to check that one out. Of course, the main event around the corner, WrestleMania 5. This is a huge piece of history going on right now in the early part of 1989 WWF. And we're just getting started, guys. The first week in the books. When we return, it's next week's edition of Superstars Wrestling Challenge Primetime. All the build-up, the final build-up to the Royal Rumble, which we'll be covering in 2 episodes' time. And I want to thank everybody again for their patience as we continue to work through the summer. Lots of things going on, both in the Patreon world, lots of video casts and things of that nature, other podcasts we've been working on, other projects, real-life shoot jobs and things of that nature here in the WrestleCopia podcast. Now, we're keeping everybody busy. Some vacations were taken. Of course, my kids are going to be going back to school here in the next week or so. So just a lot going on all around. But we're getting back together. Everything's coming back into motion, so to speak. So I thank everybody for their patience. And we continue on here with the Grenade Project 1989 and the World Wrestling Federation. More WWF TV here in January, right around the corner. I want to thank you all again for listening, and a reminder to stop on over to the Patreon. 3 different tiers. We can really use your help right now to help cover those annual costs, the various hosting, the various software that we use. It's not cheap, and they keep jacking up the bills on me. So meanwhile, the prices here at the Patreon de WrestleCopia, they remain the same. Keep that in mind, guys, as well. Offering a ton for you guys, so go check that out. But right now, we're going to wrap it up. Going to be back soon with another edition of The Grenade. Want to thank you guys once again for all of your support. Keep sharing, retweeting, whatever they call it nowadays out there. Keep putting over the WrestleCopia Podcast Network as we continue to grow. We certainly appreciate everybody here who's been here from the ground floor up. But with all of that said and out of the way, going to be back soon. I want to share my appreciation one last time to all you guys. And on that token, I guess it's time to say from pillar to post and coast to coast. You pull the pin, I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there!
How can you forget the horror that you experienced that night?
My opponent only knows defeat, and I will not deny him!
You call me Mr. Perfect. I have the perfect wrestling hold, and I call it the perfect Plex. How does it work? Perfectly. Do I make myself clear?
Perfectly.
I thought so.
You know something, Macho Man? with the mega powers united as one. Body, mind, and soul, the lovely Elizabeth.
The bonding, the unification of the mega powers. Macho Man, Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan. We've cleared the air on this one. Vince, back to you.
All right, Jesse, your reaction to their explanation.
McMahon, that's a cover-up. It's worse than Contragate. It's worse than Watergate. That sound like Haldeman and Ehrlichman on the stand. You believe that?